Well, for more on Brexit, David Smith joins us live now from Fort Lauderdale. He's the Washington correspondent for The Guardian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, in her statement, Prime Minister Theresa May called this deal the best that could be negotiated, and she said she firmly believed with her head and her heart that it was in the national interest. Is this, in fact, the best deal for the UK?
It all depends on your point of view. Some would argue that the best arrangement would be no Brexit at all, and the entire thing is a terrible mistake. But the possibility of a second Brexit vote is indeed remote. So Theresa May is in a real political bind here. As you heard, it was a long cabinet meeting of about 5 hours. Reports suggest there was certainly dissent in that room and voices against her arrangement. And now it'll be even tougher to get it through Parliament. This is a compromise. Already, someone like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's an outspoken pro-Brexit MP, has publicly said this is a rotten deal. There's even rumours of a potential leadership challenge to Theresa May within the Conservative Party. It's just an extremely difficult situation and has been ever since Brexit was voted for. So there are certainly merits in this, and it's better than no deal, but it's tough.
Now, there's been criticism from both sides of the argument, both the pro and anti-Brexit groups, and some of May's critics have suggested that she agreed to a deal that would get passed rather than one in the national interest. So which concessions or issues may be driving that criticism?
Look, if you're a die-hard pro-Brexit person, then this deal goes nowhere near far enough in terms of really severing ties with the European Union. Far too much of trade issues, customs issues are still aligned with the EU for that wing's satisfaction. And they could make the point, look, the more that our arrangement has in common with the European Union, then the less room for manoeuvre there is to strike a completely different deal with Asia, for example, or with the United States. And then on the other side of the argument, clearly there are millions of people and many politicians who think Brexit should not be happening. So any kind of arrangement is going to be unsatisfactory to them. So Theresa May is really trying to thread an impossible needle here with plenty of political opposition on both sides.
And she really does have her work cut out for her, because we know that the draft deal still needs the backing of Parliament. You also have DUP and their role in this. Talk about some of the bargaining positions that this puts May in with the DUP.
So you broke up slightly there, but yes, the DUP have already come out against what she's proposing. They have huge concerns, of course, over the status of Northern Ireland. Now, this deal is attempting to ensure there will not be a return to security checks on the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, which would be the implication of one being in the European Union and not the other. And the EU seem happy to give some extra time for that to be resolved. But for the DUP, Theresa May has not gone far enough. Nicola Sturgeon, the Scottish Prime Minister, has also come out and said the agreement makes no mention of Scotland and its own particular wants and needs. And of course, Scotland voted against Brexit. There are all sorts of voices here pulling in different directions with their own interests, and one would not envy the Prime Minister trying to juggle all of those, and of course trying to keep the European Union happy as well.
Now, we know that Theresa May did say that there would be difficult days ahead, but what does this first step mean in terms of any sort of reassurance for the UK economy and the businesses who've essentially been in limbo while all this is going on?
I think businesses may be mildly reassured that at least we've got this far, that May is doing her best to be a strong leader and guide this through and at least corral her cabinet. But even so, as your report mentioned, the arithmetic does not necessarily add up in Parliament. we still face the prospect of potentially this being voted down, potentially the collapse of government, going to a general election. Who knows whether that could lead to a second Brexit referendum and so on. And you know, what we know that businesses hate uncertainty. And during this process, we've had the likes of BMW and Airbus warning of jobs going overseas. Certainly some apocalyptic warnings from some sectors that if no deal at all is achieved, what a disaster that could be for the UK economy. So you know, every time we say Britain couldn't possibly go there, and then a few weeks later we find ourselves there, and uncertainty still does loom, and that will have a lot of businesses very worried.
As does that March deadline. Thank you so much. David Smith, Washington correspondent for The Guardian newspaper.